Hi there, it's Damien here, a public speaking and performing coach, helping you overcome any public speaking anxiety or nerves. In this video, I want you to think about your presentation or your speech. And if normally that evokes feelings of nervousness or fear, I want you to ask yourself why. What do you think is going to happen in that speech? Let's say you've been asked to speak at work in front of your colleagues, to give a presentation. Maybe you're not very confident about the material. Maybe you don't feel good about having to speak in front of an audience. So that's when all the anxiety arises, all the negative thoughts, etc. So I want to ask yourself, what do you think is going to happen? Just take a moment and really ponder. Now you might come up with answers such as, well, I'm going to choke. People are going to see that I'm incompetent. I'm going to forget the words. I'm going to forget a really important part of the presentation that my boss specifically told me to include. I might miss something out that's key. I might go blank and freeze, and then everyone will be looking at me. These are very common thoughts that happen when we suffer from public speaking anxiety or performance fear. But what we're going to do in this video very briefly is we're going to reframe that. In other words, instead of automatically thinking about what the worst is going to happen, we're going to start making a list of what the best thing that might possibly happen in your speech or your presentation. So let's start. So for example, let's say you've been asked to speak at a conference, you've got to give a presentation, it needs to last 45 minutes in front of some very important people. Board directors, CEOs and owners and directors of companies are going to be there. Or it may not be so high level, it may be a college presentation, it may be a small Zoom meeting, it really doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that you feel this anxiety and this tension. Now, imagine your own personal scenario, your own public speaking or performing event, and it will be different for everybody. And now I want you to think, what's the best that could happen? So let's start. You start your presentation. What's the best thing that could happen? Well, it might start going very smoothly. You might start and immediately start to feel calm. That's a good thing. What other things are the best things that could happen, possibly? Well, you may remember all of your points and get through them coherently and without any issue. Now, for some people, this may not sound convincing. Oh, I'm just saying, what the best could happen. But the questions that we need to ask ourselves is, well, why is it more accurate to believe the worst that can happen over the best that can happen? And, the reason for that is that we have, most of us anyway, been trained to see negativity and pessimism as being more realistic than optimism. If I'm negative, we're told, and if I expect the worst, then, I won't be disappointed. If I think about what things might go wrong, anything that doesn't go wrong is a bonus. Now, I can see some merits in approaching life that way. But the only issue with that is that when we start thinking about what may happen and catastrophizing and all the negatives that may occur, it leaves us with an inability to really do our best because we're so petrified. So whilst it may seem we're protecting ourselves by being overly negative and overly cautious, all we're doing is paralyzing ourselves into a fear that's really hard for us to perform our best at. So instead of that, we're going to say, you know what, I don't have to believe the very worst is going to happen and call that reality and say that I'm being realistic. I'm going to think about the very best that can happen. Maybe I won't feel as nervous as I feel now. Maybe the nerves will lessen. Maybe the audience will be friendly and welcoming and I'll look out there and I'll feel at ease. Maybe I'll remember that I know my subject presentation or I'm very good at what I have to do performing or speaking, and I'll just get into the zone. Maybe once I'm in the zone, I'll feel completely different and I'll just be able to deliver and remember that I've prepared. Now, training your mind to think differently to how it's always thought isn't going to just come like that. You're going to have to persist and you're going to have to keep practicing. But once you keep at it, you're going to start to see that it isn't necessarily more realistic to think of the worst case scenario over the best case scenario. In reality, our speeches or presentation usually result in somewhere in the middle. The speeches that we do, even if we suffer from performance anxiety, normally go okay. We may be highly critical and look back and look at places where we think it could be better. But on the whole, it's really unusual for a speech to be completely flawless and perfect, or for it to be a complete disaster. It's normally just an okay speech, and there are things that we're happy with and things that we'd like to improve. So I'd like you to start by, as soon as that voice in your mind it rears its ugly head, start by talking about what is the best that might happen. Use the immediate reaction of what the worst might happen as a jumping off point to what the best might happen be. So if your immediate reaction is the worst might happen is that I might forget my words, I might forget what I'm supposed to say. Well, the best that might happen is I might remember my words perfectly. They may be so entrenched in me because I've practiced so much, they may just flow out of me easily. So that's just an example, but I do stress the fact that if you have been thinking in a particularly negative way for a long time, don't expect in 5, 10, 15 minutes for your whole thinking process to just change and flip. It takes time, it's a process, and it's a practice. And it's one that we're going to do here in these videos and in my courses online. So thank you for that. Please like and subscribe this video. It really helps with letting people know about the work that we do here. And yeah, please stay informed and connected for more videos. Take care.